Apparently, you need it.
Yeah,
Alright.
my bank of water ones.
You should add that to the agenda,
Yes, added to the.
otherwise I can't be born.
She's writing that down.
Proclamation. And just one more thing and then we'll be ready. Take care whenever you're ready.
Really quick, ready. Got it. Got it. Okay, I will now call to order the June 18th meeting of the Salem Historic Landmarks Commission. Will the recorder please take roll call?
Commissioner Kerdeman,
That's it.
Commissioner Inman,
Here.
Commissioner Kaiser,
Present.
Commissioner Oldwin,
Present.
Commissioner Strong,
Here.
Commissioner Weathers. Here. And Commissioner Strauss is absent excused. We have quorum.
All right, thank you. Just want to quickly acknowledge we have a commissioner who has a special day. Commissioner Charles Weathers, it's birthday today, so I mean, we could sing to you.
Yeah.
That might be
Yeah.
embarrassing.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
Julie.
do what you gotta do.
Okay. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Charlie. Happy birthday.
And we don't have anything for you to blow out. You'll have to laugh.
I mean, a year ago when I signed up for this, I looked at the calendar and I thought, oh, I can't, that's the whole point.
Right? So you could get.
Get you all here.
Public acknowledgement. Public acknowledgement.
Here, thank you.
All right, the commission will now hear testimony from the public concerning items on the agenda other than public hearings. Is there anyone wishing to speak at this time? No. We do have members of the audience, which is great. So seeing none, we'll move on to consent calendar. The consent calendar, may I please have a motion to approve minutes?
So moved.
All right, Commissioner Hinman moves to approve the minutes. Is there a second? Second. All right. Commissioner Kirkman seconds. And so we have Commissioner Hinman moves to approve the minutes, Commissioner Kirkman seconds. Are there any corrections? Hearing none. So I'll call for a vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. All right, motion carries. You will now move on to public hearings. Let me move scripts here for that. I should note I'm filling in for our chair, who's unfortunately out ill, so bear with me, please. Okay. I will now open the public hearing for historic review case number HIS 25-07 for 176 Liberty Street Northeast. And would the reporter please read the hearing procedure statement into the record?
This is a public hearing to consider case number HIS 25-07 for property located at 176 Liberty Street Northeast. The criteria applicable to this hearing are listed in Salem Revised Code, Chapter 230.070, General Guidelines for Non-Contributing Buildings and Structures. Failure to raise an issue prior to the close of the public hearing with statements or evidence sufficient to afford the Historic Landmarks Commission and the parties an opportunity to respond to the issue precludes appeal to the State Land Use Board of Appeals on that issue. A similar failure to raise constitutional issues relating to proposed conditions of approval precludes an action for damages in circuit court. Prior to the conclusion of the hearing, any participant may request an opportunity to present additional evidence or testimony. The Historic Landmarks Commission will then either continue the public hearing or leave the record open for at least 7 days.
All right, thank you. Are there any conflicts of interest or ex parte contacts that any commissioner would like to declare at this time? Okay. Seeing none, we have the staff presentation.
Good evening. I'm Jacob Morris, Historic Planner for the City of Salem. I'd like to enter the staff report, attachments, and public testimony into the public record. Property today we have is 178 6 Liberty Street Northeast. It is classified as a non-contributing resource in the Downtown Commercial Historic District. And let's go a little bit into the history of it. It's called the Adolph Walters Building. It was built in 1924. It was remodeled significantly in the 60s and the 1980s, and it's non-contributing because those were alterations that take place past the period of significance. Only a portion of it's under consideration today. It's a fourth storefront bay. It's located at the southernmost end of the building. It fronts Liberty Street, adjacent to 170 Liberty Street Northeast, next to what they call the French Unicorn Building business there. While it was originally part of this building, it's broken down in its own separate retail space. This was most recently the I'll get to that in just a second. Sorry. The only main architectural feature that is still there from the original building is that the cornice line at the very top. You can see it there just a little bit there. The most recent business in there was the Bow and Vine restaurant. Okay, on March 17th, the applicant submitted historic design review materials to install a sign to replace the previous building sign. The initial submittal was classified as a Class 2 minor historic review, but after corresponding and looking at it, how it would fit the standards, it wasn't a good fit for a minor, and so staff worked with the applicant, and then it was converted to Class 3 major historic design review, and that's using the general guidelines under 230.070. And then this also has an extension granted in order to have enough time to do this hearing, that sort of thing. Notice of hearing was sent out to surrounding property owners, tenants, according to our requirements on May 29th. And notice was also posted on the property. This is a mock-up of the sign itself. It's install a new sign to replace the previous one. That last one was approved in 2018. It's in generally the same location on the primary facade. The new proposed sign is 144 by 32. It has a black finished aluminum frame, half-inch acrylic face. It's got LED lighting powered, and it has the same feed power as the previous sign. And then the sign assembly is to be affixed by 2.5-inch lags, and those are to go into the mortar joints and not into the brick itself. And this is a depiction of the sign and the affixment method. And then the applicable guidelines. Let's try that one more time. All right, for non-contributing buildings and structures. First, we address materials. They shall be consistent with those present in the building and structures in the district generally. And when we look at that area, we do see a lot of aluminum and acrylic signs found there. And then alterations and additions shall be compatible in design and construction with the general character buildings or structures in the historic district. And some of the factors are architectural elements such as porches, dormers, doors, windows, and then we're looking at spacing, placement, scale, orientation, proportion, all things you find in the district generally. And then we see that this is placed in a pretty common area where you see signs. So we think it fits that. The size and scale is consistent and harmonious with the buildings and structures in the district generally. And we concur with that. It reflects but does not replicate the architectural style of historically contributing buildings and structures in the district. And we agree with that. It's a simple design that could fit a range of an era. Not a whole lot of things would be earmarked for a specific style. We didn't receive any public comment. The neighborhood association is the Can Do neighborhood association, which they did not bring any comments forth. City departments, building and safety just commented that they do need to get any applicable permits, but didn't have any specific recommendations other than that. And so our overall recommendation is that it meets the criteria, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
All right, thank you. Do any of the commissioners have questions for staff? Nothing. Okay. Flip the page here. Thanks, Chief. I will now call for the applicant's testimony, if they're here. The applicant. Okay, we'll skip that then. Is there anyone from the neighborhood association here that wants to provide testimony? Not seeing any. Is there anyone here from the audience that wishes to speak, provide testimony on this application? All right, there. Is there anyone else who would like to testify? None. There is no applicant rebuttal. Yeah, he's not here. There was nothing. Are there any, our last call for questions of staff? Okay, yeah. Sure, strong.
If the sign is so similar to the previous one, why does it need a class 3 design?
The previous sign also needed that type of design review. Our specific standards for signs are kind of specific. They talk about backlit pan channel letters, and even though this has some of that effect because most of it's black, so the lights, the acrylic lettering is really what you're seeing lit up. It still isn't technically that type of lettering. And so we needed to use the general guidelines to fit that. And the previous sign also went through that process.
That this wasn't similar enough. If someone's replacing a sign with one that's, say if somebody buys a business and they replace the sign with one that's in a very similar style, does it still have to go through a class 3 design review? Seems like a lot of work.
Can I?
Sure.
Yeah, so
This is my usual question.
no, it's fine. It depends. So, it does not need to go through a class 3 if it meets our applicable standards. Which is something we updated in our code back in 2020. In this particular case, the reason that the previous sign required a class 3 and the reason this one does is because it does not meet our standards. It's guidelines, which is more, it's more discretion than staff has.
Got it. Thank you for explaining.
Sure.
Any commissioners have other questions? Okay. I'm going to close the public hearing. No additional testimony will be accepted at this time without formally reopening the hearing by pretend gavel. I'll now call for a motion. Sure.
I move that the commission approve the proposal as submitted by the applicant.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
All right, Commissioner Strong, second. So we have a motion by Commissioner Eastman and a second by Commissioner Strong. Discussion. Actually, would you like to speak to your motion?
I'm just glad to see a new restaurant coming into the space, so. At first look, I thought this is really a big sign, but the fact that it's a backlit sign and it's just a way to get the words on there, it's like, yeah, I can see why they're doing it that way, so. I think it's a welcome addition to the restaurant scene downtown.
Other discussion? Okay. I will call for a vote. All those in favor of, well, let me read the motion again, sorry. So we have a motion on the table, so this would be to, just scroll down here, find it. To be to approve the proposal as submitted by the applicant. So all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. All right, the motion passes. I get to start over again. Thank you. I don't think I gathered it last time. I'll try to. All right, I will now open the public hearing for historic review case number HIS 25-11 for 1590 Cottage Street Southeast. Would the recorder please read the hearing procedure? You don't need to do this. Or do you have to do it every
Yeah.
time?
Every time.
Please do that again.
Yeah.
Procedures, thank you.
I could try to do it faster. This is a public hearing to consider case number HIS 25-11 for property located at 1590 Cottage Street Southeast. The criteria applicable to this hearing are listed in Salem Revised Code Chapter 230.065, General Guidelines for Historic Contributing Structures. Failure to raise an issue prior to the close of the public hearing with statements or evidence sufficient to afford the Historic Landmarks Commission and the parties an opportunity to respond to the issue precludes appeal to the State Land Use Board of Appeals on that issue. A similar failure to raise constitutional issues relating to proposed conditions of approval precludes an action for damages in circuit court. Prior to the conclusion of the hearing, any participant may request an opportunity to present additional evidence or testimony. The Historic Landmarks Commission will then either continue the public hearing or leave the record open for at least 7 days.
Wow.
Great job.
That was impressive.
Are there any conflicts of interest or ex parte contacts that any commissioner would like to declare at this time? See none. Now, may we have a staff present?
Yes, I have a drawl, so I don't think I'll be able to top. I'm Jacob Morris, historic planner for the city of Salem. I'd like to enter this report, attachments, and all public testimony into the record. And the property we have before us today is 1590 Cottage Street Southeast. It is a contributing property of the Gated Hill Bush Pasture Park Historic District. And it is classified in the nomination documents as a vernacular residence. If you were to say it had a style, mostly because of the general form, scale, that sort of thing, it leaned towards craftsman, but in the nomination itself, it doesn't classify it as anything but a vernacular residence. We believe the construction date was 1924. The nomination talks about the form. They call it a square, 1.5 story wood frame structure, mentions the gable roof, mentions the windows as 1/1 double hung sash, mentions the shed roof, all across the front, and that acts as part of the porch. It mentions single siding with plain window and door trim. And we don't have any historic images from early on with this property that we were able to find. The background on this case, we're applying for retroactive approval because some of this work has already been done. Based on a call, staff contacted the property owner and made them aware that there was a historic design review process that needed to be done, and so we started to work with them on that. After working with them, they submitted materials for a major historic design review. And then the application was deemed complete for processing on May 28th. Notice of public hearing was sent by mail to property owners and pursuant to the SRC requirements on May 29th, and public hearing notice was also posted on the property. The proposal, there's alterations to the porch, foundation, and fence of this property in general. And then you can see up here, a plan. It's a corner property. And then and so the first thing we'll look at is the porch. Originally, the porch posts were they were shingled, you know, they were wooden, but they had a shingle finish on them. And the proposal is to be changed to a box cedar column. So instead of shingling these posts, the post arrangement is the same, but the material is altered. And then porch steps originally were wooden, but they were proposed to be replaced with red brick steps and a common bond. And then the perimeter foundation, you can see here, originally the shingling came down lower, but the alteration that's proposed for approval today is some red brick and a common bond along there. There was mention of some decay and deterioration of this lower portion, and so that was an effort made to get rid of some of that splash up and that sort of thing. And then there is a fence on what you would classify as the rear of the property, based on the way the architecture of the building is. And you can see it's a combination of brick and metal, with metal insets that are just metal pickets in a simple design there. And then since there are several moving parts here, we determined that the general guidelines for historic contributing resources would be the most appropriate, because that could pull in all of the different aspects of this. And so the first one that is relevant is, except as otherwise provided in this chapter, a property shall be used for its historic purpose or for a similar purpose that will not alter street access, landscape design, entrance height, footprint, fenestration, or massing. And when we looked at that, this property throughout its life has been a single family residential property, a family home essentially, and it continues to have that historic purpose. So we recommended that you find this one's met. The second one is historic materials, finishes, and distinctive features shall, when possible, be preserved and repaired according to historic preservation methods. Some of the deteriorated areas, such as the porch floor, some of the shingling up a little higher on the walls, they were repaired in kind. And then some of the features that were mentioned in the nomination itself is significant. So that the roof lines retained, the windows, the cedar shingle siding, most of it is. But there is some alterations that we've discussed before. And then the C is distinctive stylistic features or examples of skilled craftsmanship shall be treated with sensitivity. The proposal, it does introduce a greater proportion of brick into the design of the house, but the masonry elements are, a natural material, a material that's generally considered consistent with the style of this house. And so we feel that this meets the minimum requirements for that. This is some examples that were provided of other properties in the district that have similar treatments. So you see kind of a brick foundation on the porch of these. Sorry, it's a little bit washed out here, but all of these properties here. And then additions and alterations shall be designed and constructed to minimize changes to the historic resource. The primary alterations, are the brick foundation cladding, conversion of the porch steps to brick, and then the shingle columns to cedar box columns. Although their changes overall, they're pretty minimal. The fence itself is replacing a wooden picket fence. So there was a fence there previously, but the fence style is changed. And then additions and alterations shall do the least possible loss of historic materials so that significant features are not obscured, damaged, or destroyed. And there were some alterations, as we mentioned before. Although they are changes, we still feel that they aren't directly impacting the overall character of the property. And then additions, alterations, you don't want significant features obscured, damaged, or destroyed. And then we feel that most of the significant materials and features are retained. And then the neighborhood association did present some comments, and the first was related to, let me get these so I don't miss. The first had to do with the no change in purpose, because if there is a change of purpose, the way it speaks in our code is it talks about, at that point, we would look at things that would be alter street access, landscape design, entrance, height, footprint, fenestration, all of those things, alteration of landscape design. The fence and all of that are all alterations. But the operative part of that is that's all triggered by a change of purpose. And this property has always been a single family home. So in that case, they're not like, say for instance, it was another use like an office use, requirements for additional parking may kick in, and then those type of things are addressed by that criteria. But in this case, we don't determine that that's relevant because it has the same purpose. And then another concern they had was initially the comparable properties that we showed, they didn't have their address or their contributing status or non-contributing status. And so after hearing that, we reached out to the applicant, and they provided the actual addresses. And then after looking at those, most of them are contributing to the district. And then also that there was a concern there was after the fact application. And so in the staff report, we added some language to make it clear that a lot of this work has already been done, and they're asking for approval for work that's already been done mostly. And so that's the way that we address the scan concerns. And then overall, we feel that although there were some alterations, it meets the standard for us to feel comfortable approving the proposal. And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Great, thank you. Are there any commissioners that have questions? Sure.
Okay, questions. This has already been constructed?
Most of it has. The front porch has been altered, the perimeter, the wood, the masonry perimeter, and the fence has.
I have a question that I think really affects the appearance of this porch, and that is that since the finished floor of the porch is they're showing 3'4" above the above grade. It's more than a 30-inch height to the porch floor. Wouldn't the side railing on that porch, side railings need to be 36 or 42 inches high according to today's code? Since I don't know if there was a railing there before because it's been demolished, but what's shown in the elevation on sheet 4 does not show a guardrail height. If you look at the left side of that image, that if you take the finished floor elevation and carry that along through the porch, you can see that railing does not conform to today's code. And is it a replacement of a lower rail, or it's something that affects the appearance of this and would further change the design of the. So I wanted to raise that question. And on the elevation sheet number 3, there's a note for a deco beam cover for the existing beam. What does that mean? Is that an additional change? On sheet number 5, the fence elevations on the typical wall and column, they say that it shows a detail on the column of 6 inches to 20 inches. And then says varies. So does this mean you have interspersed 6-inch wide or 1 brick wide columns? Or, I mean,
No.
that's in the illustration, I mean, in the elevation shown, they all appear to be the wider columns or columns. And then in a note in the south elevation fence, it says new brick columns to match existing. And were there existing brick columns, or is this what existing columns are they matching? If there was a wood picket fence, that'd be cool.
Okay, so start at the. Let's see, well, oh, I'm sorry, trying to pull these together here.
Use the arrows on the keyboard, you can go.
Oh, there was one column, it looks like there was one, I'm sorry, but on sheet 2, it shows one brick column with white on the back corner of the property.
Yeah, for what? In general, and when you look at the build, it generally looks at like what we have here. And there's typical wall and column there. That's generally what we're looking at, about 3 to 4 bricks thick, and the width is all. Oh, I need my better glasses to see.
So that probably was not intended to be 6 inches to 20 inches width of those.
Right. Yeah, that would be.
The current photo shows that 1 brick column.
Yeah, there's consistent.
There is one existing. One existing with light.
But that's not 1 brick wide. It looks like it's like the.
That's probably the 20 inches.
Yeah, it would be a good question with the applicant. They are excited to provide testimony.
Yeah, but I'm not 100% sure on some of those questions.
Yeah, on the first, or on the sheet 2 of the elevations of the existing building, the height they show on, I think that this is the height of the rail. They were just going back to something similar to that, but it's not clear.
If I may, it might be best answered by the applicant who's there. Yeah.
Yep. So from what I looked at from that, it's built in comparison. The proportions generally seem to be the same as what was there in terms of the building itself and the porch assembly, in terms of proportions and that sort of thing. In the fence itself, it went from a more basic picket fence. The overall height was roughly the same, but went to a combination brick and metal picket.
Other questions for staff?
When you have something that the work has already started, do you not include photos of it as it currently looks like today? Like, is that just part of the process that you like? Yeah, like why are the photos not showing any of that work, I guess is it just
The,
a process part of how you submit?
in the report, it doesn't have any pictures of it as it looks today. Or does-
Well, I don't, the way that you were mentioning of certain things that had been completed, seems different than what I was seeing in the pictures, but I think.
Let me show you, we've got,
The only pictures we have in the report are not a gate, but it just.
okay, let me pull together. Let me see, so when you look at this image here, this one here's in process. You know, that when they were in process, they had already constructed the stairs there and they'd started to work there. This, unfortunately, you can't see it as well, but this is well before, so this was taken, you know, before any of the alterations happened there. And then.
So those photos are not in what we have.
Other questions? Yeah. Okay, let's move on to the applicant testimony. So I think the applicant's here.
Yes.
Come on up. Please state your name and address for the record, or your business address if you're.
Sorry.
Paul Willits, my company is Design 4, and my address is PO Box 425-4215, Salem.
You can have 15 minutes.
Okay. First on the project, the client is a brick mason. So that's one of the reasons for a lot of the brickwork. He started the process of repairing the post, and like a lot of repairs, you start to open up one thing, next thing, and you just start doing more and more and more. And so in the process of repairing the post, the railing was bad. He decided to repair the railing, and the stuff I submitted, there is existing drawings and elevations on both sides, and then also the new. So it sort of shows the old railing height along the side wall of the raised porch. But in that process, with the farm more and more dry rot, again, as a brick mason, he decided, you know what, to make it more solid and better. And so he decided to do new stairs. And when he replaced the posts, the same, he decided to do a brick half wall just to give it stronger, better looking. The railing part there, I was showing what was as built. And if need be, code wise, we can add a piece on top of it. Either maybe make it metal railing to match exactly the fence, so we don't have two different types of style. And that would be in black, so it would sort of disappear more. And then on the side, there was water issues going over, rotting the siding. And so again, being a brick mason, we ripped it off and did brickwork, nice cap, it's a lot more solid. Then the fence was having rotting issues. He wants to get something better with the brick and metal to then keep the dogs more contained in the yard. So he did that. And then I can answer those questions for you on the other ones. The band is on the deco band is a 1x cedar to match the cedar on the posts. See here. Other one was the railing, and what was it? Another, oh, that was a typo on the 6 to 12. That should just be on the 20 inch there, so.
Okay, do you have anything else to add?
This is my first time, so
Okay.
I don't know what else to add.
Totally fine, we're friendly, so.
Great.
Yeah. So does any commissioner have questions for the applicant? Any other questions? Commissioner Shaw?
Yeah, do the fence, I wasn't able to tell from this, but do the fence and the porch railing both meet the city code? Is it just, if the size wasn't listed?
The per se code wise, the railing would need to be increased on the side, on the porch. We'd keep the brick the same, but then go taller.
Yeah.
Go to 36 and just add metal railing to match the railing that's going down the stairs as well, because of her handrail, and again on the same fence, so it all matched, so the only one style railing.
That's a building and safety question.
Yeah. Yeah, that we submitted for the building permit, and then the historic, so the building permit sort of sitting there right now waiting.
They'll ask you about the fence too.
Yes, they will have the code questions and any revisions needed for that time.
Any other questions? Those are my questions. Okay. All right, thank you for your
Okay.
testimony. Is there anyone here representing the neighborhood association? None. I have one person signed up to give testimony on the sign up sheet here, Catherine Daniels. Okay, please come up, and state your name and address for the record, and you have 5 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Catherine Daniels. I live at 662 Cottage Street. I'm within the notification period for this hearing. Can you hear me? I'm soft spoken.
Speak up a
Nope.
little bit.
Okay. So I walk by the house often, on my way to the park, and the work has been underway for a few years, and I've just considered that it was incomplete. It looks incomplete as you look at it from the front of the house. I understand from the application and the staff report that the approval that's sought is a retroactive one for work that's been largely done. I was surprised that the staff report didn't include any current photos. But I did find the technical drawings that you saw here tonight, and the one of the front porch elements looks to me, I'm not a historic preservation expert, but they look to me to be balanced and symmetrical. But when you look at the porch elements, in reality, they don't bear a lot of resemblance to the drawing. So I took some photos and I wondered if I could share them.
Yes, you can, pass the photos out there.
These are from this week.
And then we either have to keep
Yeah,
these.
that's
Okay,
fine.
great, wonderful.
So they're just much more clear for you than the one image that was up here. So as you can see, we've got 3 columns on one side and 2 on the other, unlike the technical drawing. Columns that don't reach the base of the top of the porch wall. Columns of unequal width and unequal distance from each other. Unequal and incomplete column wrapping, top and bottom. Unequal porch height and unequal materials, one side brick, one side shingles. It could be, so I'm confused. It could be that the applicant's not finished with the work. And if that's the case, good. And I would hope that any approval for this project is conditioned on a consistency of the actual work with the technical drawing that's been provided. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Are there any questions? Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to provide testimony?
Anyone for just one response?
You'll have an
Oh, cool.
opportunity here. Actually, right now. So come on back up. You can provide a rebuttal.
The only part I would say is on the, yes, he was not finished during the process of doing the work, he was stopped. And so he's not done. If you're facing the porch when you're going upstairs, he stopped and did not do this return section there. So he had done this part and then did not do that section there, so it's not finished. There's more wrap to be done on that one side, again, facing on the left side of the porch. And then to get the other, it's a non-structural post back there. So it is the 4 again, like the original.
So I'm just getting to look at the photos here really quick. So you're saying I'm looking at the front of it. So as I'm standing facing the house on the left-hand side, there's an additional column. That looks like it's, doesn't go all the way to the, not sure what to call that, the small wall, I guess. So you're saying
Yeah, that,
that's,
he stopped. Again, he got tagged and then stopped. And so he had done this side over here, the fence work, and then didn't do the part over here along the face, the bottom of the
So-
foundation.
the plan would be to remove that leftmost column, or to add it. Would it be different than the plan?
I need to
that's
see the
submitted?
photo maybe real quickly, just to refresh my.
Yeah,
Yeah, isn't there 2 and 2?
there's
It's like a-
there's 3 on
Three.
the left and 2 on the right. It almost looks like. some-
That's, I think that's a, hold on, you can see the photo closer up.
Yeah. Okay, right.
Thank you. Yeah, I see, he did a trim band there, it's not a column, but he did the corner there, but in theory, that could be removed. To remove that one. That one there on the side. He just took, looks like he just took the trim. On the other side, you're facing on the other side of the shared one here, you're looking this way. That corner, I believe, does not have any trim piece there.
So, help me understand your role in this. I know you.
I'm-
designed the drawing. Yeah.
Yes, I was contacted by another builder who knows him, that when he got tagged, that he needed someone to do existing drawings and what was built. And then also, he's not a builder, help him submit the drawings. And then he didn't help, and so I decided to help him do the historic submittal.
Okay, and other than that, though, you're not involved.
I do, no, not construction, I do the drafting design,
Okay.
that's what I do.
The owner is completing the work.
Yes,
Himself.
the owner is the builder,
Okay.
it's soft work.
So you can't, I guess you can't necessarily testify that the build will happen according to your drawings per se, but that's what you provided.
Yes, it will, yeah, because again, it's about 85% done, you think about the whole project, again, so that one side isn't done there. And then any code issues that the city, when they do the final plans review, would be modified.
Okay. Any other commissioners have questions? Wanna ask some questions? Okay. Questions for the applicant? Okay, all right, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, let's bring staff back up here, but we have questions. Okay, sure.
Yeah, well, you'll say it more eloquently. I'm just curious about the process of decisions like this when the work is in process. So often it's proposed and then we'll just say, yeah, do it. And then we don't ever see if it gets done. If not, that's up to other folks to, check in on. So I think we're getting hung up on the fact that it's partially complete. What does it look like from a procedural standpoint when it is partially complete? Is there some accountability steps near the end? I think that would help. Process.
Right, say it's approved, without any conditions. What we would look at it is when it's determined finished, we would go out and look at it and compare it like we do in the other ones. In terms of it being a compliance case, what we look at is, is the property owner moving towards compliance? We try to work with the property owners, so they weren't aware previously, and then they become aware. We try to work with them as a service to get them into compliance. It's not, just because it's been done doesn't mean that it's approved. You know what I mean? It either meets the criteria or not. So if the commissioners determine that it doesn't, it would be appropriate to say, okay, we don't think this treatment was appropriate, and so we won't approve that particular treatment, and you could condition that. Or if you feel that it does meet, then what we would do at the end of it is look at, once everything's finished, as we would any other one, and it would just be that they hit.
Yeah, I didn't mean to blur the lines between this decision and compliance and zip code. I just meant there's an accountability step so that if we approve as submitted, someone double checks that it gets done, even if it's not quite there now.
Right. What would happen is when what we call the final inspection came up, we'd issue what we call a certificate of appropriateness. And we take an image of it for documentation so that we have, you know, with historic properties, we like to know what it looks like at a particular date. So in part of that certificate of appropriateness, we take an image of whatever the treatment was at that time. So we have a date so that then later on, first it says what it meets it, but then also in the future, we have this thing to say, okay, say an alteration was made by a future property owner. You know, we could compare it to that.
That was pretty much the same, which I was getting caught up on. What exactly are we approving? Are we approving the work that's been previously done or the design? And the answer is we're looking at the proposed design.
Right. What you're looking at is the proposal and it's their responsibility to meet that proposal.
Which product, it's their responsibility to get there. Thank you. Yeah. I was getting caught up on that as well, so.
Yep, the photo that we did have in our application, I only see one column on each side. Is there a way you can pull that up? I'm just curious, was that something that had already been modified at that point? Or,
We have a few images. There's that one, there's one from when it was.
it's the one that in the application that was just said west elevation front. Page 18.
I don't have the
You don't have
the report with me here.
No, it's a photo. Yeah, that's one.
This one.
So like looking at I only see one column. I mean, I'm just confused what it actually looked like, so that's why I'm.
There's two columns. They're difficult to see because of the shadowy. Yeah,
On the corner?
yeah. You look like I zoomed, but yeah.
Can you zoom way?
yeah.
way in?
Just use go like this.
You know, the
Yeah, so that's a column. Yes.
Yeah, but in that other photo you had, there's two side by side. Instead, like I just see one.
Because this is the before any work was started.
right.
is
This
the
was.
original.
Okay, so that's what I did, so
Yeah.
So originally it had one, now we're gonna have two,
And they were.
and they're gonna be filled in with a board, and I see a board. Is that, no?
No, what I originally they had those, what you.
Okay, no, I think I get, there we go, thank you.
Yeah, that's
Okay. Yeah, it's just too hard to see.
Yeah, and so instead of, you know, the original finish of them was, shingle cover to match the wall
And
clad.
now it's,
It was like a single shingle.
Mhm.
It looked super.
but the original had just one post, now we're having,
I think
Okay.
that's correct. Yeah, I think that's correct.
Okay.
And
thank you.
what we don't know is. With something vernacular like this, what we don't know is what we had originally, you know? It could be consistent. Sometimes you'll see that, sometimes you'll see over time they'll get. Less complicated as they want to repair something, you know? And so. It's hard to tell what it looked like originally. What they're proposing to me seems to fit the proportions, but. You know, it's all speculation. I've seen some stuff as it's built that look, you say, oh, they never would have built it like that, and you see an image from a year later that looks exactly like that does. So I wouldn't want to speculate too much on what it looked like originally.
Thank you.
Commissioner England.
So what I'm hearing from the commission is that the pilaster that's been added, which gives the appearance of a third column on the left side of this image, would not be appropriate. So we do that pilaster. So that you just have the double columns as built. That what I was hearing.
I mean, we would evaluate the criteria against what is proposed. So I think where some of the confusion's coming from is we're seeing in progress, right? So that, yes, you evaluate against what's proposed in the application. And then later on, after it's done, city staff will go out and essentially validate, did you do what you said you're gonna do?
Okay, well then, in this image, in the elevation that's proposed, there is no pilaster
Right.
against the house, so.
And if you want extra insurance, it would not be inappropriate to say, I want to issue a condition that says that corner needs to be, you know, clad with shingle wall, you know what I mean? If you, that would make you more comfortable, that would be appropriate as well.
Sure, sure.
I think it's basically been said. I think I appreciate the thoroughness of your review and bearing with us as we figure out exactly what we're approving. I think that it would be appropriate to put some additional conditions in our motion to assure the neighbors that they are gonna get something that looks like it's supposed to look, just because they've already had to put up with a project that's been ongoing that wasn't approved.
So we can talk more in deliberations.
Okay.
Commissioner Weathers.
I just like learning. I see that these plans have a date on them. I see the date on this report and when it got started. And I'd heard testimony that it has been going on for a number of years. Can you speak to the timeline of, I also heard someone tagged it for compliance and such, and not only to muddy the waters, but what you pay attention to, but when did this all
Right.
come up to you?
We received a concern, and I'm trying to remember the date. It was approximately 3 months ago. And at that time, and the nature of the complaint was, it looks somewhat appropriate, but it seems like a lot of changes, so I feel like they should be doing it the right way, was the gist of the call that as it was relayed to me. And so at that point, we reached out to the property owner and started the process of making them aware of the process, and then also getting the materials in so we have something that could convey what it is they're intended this thing to look like when it's finished. And that's how we got to today.
Any other questions of staff? Last chance. Yeah, applicant, would you like to provide any other rebuttal?
I was contacted, I think it was in December.
You have to come up to the podium here.
I was
Thank you.
contacted in December of 2024 to go out there and measure. That's when I started the process. And then submitted plans during that process, historic. The client was gonna take care of historic, and then I got brought on. So that's the timeline between now and when I first went out there. But again, any changes that need to be made, he's willing to make them.
All right, any other questions for the applicant? Okay, thank you.
Yep.
All right, I will now close the public hearing. No additional testimony will be accepted at this time without formally reopening the hearing. I'll now call for a motion.
I motion to approve the application. As is.
Move staff recommendation.
Yeah, with staff recommendation.
Okay, I have a motion to approve the proposal as submitted by the applicant. Is there a second?
Charles seconds.
Okay, Commissioner Weathers, to your motion, Commissioner Urban.
Yeah, I mean, it seems to meet all of, the standards that we have, and it's, and those that are brought up in comments, some are not applicable and some have been addressed. So kind of ignoring what has been done and just focusing on the finished product, it's my application.
Okay, other discussion.
Yeah, I would just say, often owners aren't aware of these requirements, and so that compliance has been, working on that. They've been amicable to it. we don't know necessarily when some of these additional things that aren't on the drawings were added. May not necessarily have been after they've been contacted, so. If it's going to be built as the plans, we're approving the plans, and I don't think we need to micromanage details of in-process construction. It's gonna take time and get delayed because budgets and whatnot.
Other discussion? Commissioner Strawn, you were deliberating earlier about adding maybe a condition. You want to speak to that?
I guess I was deliberating in my head. but,
Yeah,
you know,
right, it's yourself.
it's kind of a good, this is kind of a good case example of where somebody didn't know, but they stopped the work when they were supposed to. They took the steps to comply. The neighbors took an interest and paid attention and are making sure that it's, you know, gonna stay, that it's gonna be a good product. And, you know, the homeowners had basically a 6-month delay, but it's gonna work out okay. And hopefully it gets built, you know, successfully when it's supposed to. So it seems like a good outcome.
Other discussion? Sure, Logan.
Yeah, I'll say that. This is kind of a good example of where I wish the National Register Foundation was updated. It doesn't really give us much in terms of kind of general character features for the district as a whole, so we're kind of just left with what was presented in that description. So I think kind of overall looking at that and thinking about just the materials that are within the district, it was helpful to see other examples. I don't think those are quite comparable to the property we have, but to see the blending of brick and wood and all of that, I do think it is an impact. There's a change to add brick and metal that wasn't there, but I don't think it's substantial. I think at least the scale's small enough, sort of at like that water table line, so they're kind of that era. So yeah, I think that's all. Just wanted to add that. I do appreciate that the owner's willing to accommodate kind of changes and things to move forward, but I'm supportive of what we're seeing as proposed. So,
I'll add just my own kind of thoughts. I'm largely in agreement with all of you about this. I think it's easy to become distracted, I'll say that's not the right word, but by things that aren't necessarily within the criteria because they kind of stick out at you. Like railing height, you know, those types of things that we don't necessarily consider, but other, you know, facilities within the city does. And they're good to note, but they're not necessarily things that we're focused on. Especially when you get pictures of projects in progress, it's easy to go, ooh, that's not quite what we were thinking. But given the, you know, the findings that we had to work off of, I think this project meets that criteria. To what Commissioner Holden just saying about these are materials and designs that exist within the historic district. I'm a fan of educating our owners and our residents rather than trying to like use code to hit them over the head with. I'm not a fan of that at all. So I know this was like a compliance action, and I'm glad the neighborhood did say, hey, this is going on. We're not sure that's appropriate. And I think it was appropriate for the property owner to stop work, to engage somebody to help create the drawings and to explain exactly what the plan was here. So, kudos to them for doing that. That is the right thing to do. But as far as on the face of the criteria, I think it's met. So I'm in favor of approving the application. Is there other discussion? Okay, I will call for a vote on the motion. So we have a motion and a second to approve the proposal as submitted by the applicant. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. Okay, motion passes. And I'll flip my script to start over.
So you want to get it with your eyes closed this time.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, I will now open the public hearing for historic review case number HIS 25-16 for 409 Fourth Street North. The recorder, please read the hearing procedure statement into the record.
This is a public hearing to consider case number HIS 25-16 for property located at 409 Fourth Street Northeast. The criteria applicable to this hearing are listed in Salem Revised Code Chapter 230.040 standards for historic contributing buildings in commercial historic districts. Failure to raise an issue prior to the close of the public hearing with statements or evidence sufficient to afford the Historic Landmarks Commission and the parties an opportunity to respond to the issue precludes appeal to the State Land Use Board of Appeals on that issue. A similar failure to raise constitutional issues relating to proposed conditions of approval precludes an action for damages in circuit court. Prior to the conclusion of the hearing, any participant may request an opportunity to present additional evidence or testimony. The Historic Landmarks Commission will then either continue the public hearing or leave the record open for at least 7 days.
34 seconds,
Excellent.
30 next time.
Are there any conflicts of interest or ex parte contacts that any commissioner would like to declare at this time?
Yes, I have to recuse myself. I have a long-standing business relationship with the property owner. Give on board.
All right,
I'm sad about
Yeah.
that, for many reasons.
you can step away.
Must grab a picture.
I know, and I gotta.
Yes, very good.
Walk away from my.
Take the change. You can eat while we deliberate.
Can't have fire in here, so we didn't.
All
Take one home.
Restricted.
right, can we please have the staff present?
Yes, I'm Jacob Morris, historic planner for the city of Salem. I'd like to enter the staff report, attachments, and all public testimony into the record. This property is a contributing resource in the downtown commercial historic district. And a little bit of history about this property. According to the National Register, the Wallace and Mabel Moore Building, which is this building, they bought the property in early 1950, and then this building itself was probably constructed around 1915 to 1960. The builder, Wallace W. Moore from Tennessee, came to Salem for Kansas in about 1910. They founded the Moore Furniture Company, which is associated with this. Acquired several properties in Salem, retired in his 50s and managed his property holdings. They raised 2 daughters, and his wife sold the property to their daughter, Mabel, who retained ownership of the property in the 1980s. So we had a pretty decent continuity of ownership for this property. It may look a little familiar. It's one that was here recently for an awning reconstruction at the end of last year. The National Register nomination and the period of significance for the downtown district is circa 1867 to circa 1950. It states that all the alterations of second floor windows of this building within the last 50 years diminished its integrity. The window opening, size, and spacing are unchanged from the original, and most of the decorative ornamentation above the street level is intact. These changes could be reversed, retrieving the first floor transom lights and replacing the existing awning with one more compatible to those listed in Salem, used in Salem before 1950 would help recover the building's integrity, which is a little bit relevant to the proposal. So I wanted to put that into the record. On May 21st, the applicant submitted materials for a major historic design review to reconstruct the transom, and then also add a perforated security shutter to the alcove of this building. The application was deemed complete on May 27th. Notice of public hearing was sent to surrounding property owners pursuant to our requirements. Public hearing notice was also posted on the property. And as I mentioned before, this property was awarded a historic features grant related to the earlier proposed reconstructing of the awning. And you can see there is an image of it prior to any work. And there are kind of 2 aspects of the proposal. The first is the transom. The applicant is proposing to remove the non-historic materials installed in the location of the historic transom window assembly and install windows into the original opening. They're proposed to be 5'4" in height extend across the entire width of the building. They're clear anodized aluminum frames, operable panel is integrated in each for ventilation. And then also they're proposing a QMI model AL8 perforated roll-up security shutter, which is the same model that has been used several times in the downtown historic district. And then we have a side-by-side here showing to the historic period that they're looking to emulate. They want to remove the non-historic materials installed as fill in there, and then reinstall transom windows in the original opening. And so you can kind of see there next to each one. And then the security shutter, that's a perforated roll down shutter with a box at the top that's fixed underneath the alcove. And then some more detail of the security shutter. And then our standards for historic contributing buildings in commercial historic districts. So we'll go over the relevant ones. You know, for the transom, first we look at the materials. You know, you want to retain an original material. And in this case, what we call original material, all of the infill that remove the original transom materials wouldn't be considered original. So what we wouldn't be, this proposal wouldn't be removing any of those. And what we do have is we took a shot underneath so you can kind of see what we have there right now. So what you're looking at is underneath the awning, the three shots. And one thing we are proposing, because in 1965, this property had a can't say rehabilitation. This would be appropriate to say renovation because they were trying to change it and update it. And so you can kind of see they were adding some decorative elements to that. Center is a kind of ornamental sheet metal piece, and then they had some kind of wings on that at one point. And those the two wings are deteriorated at this point. They're essentially removed, but the center point is still there. And that occurred in 1965, which is outside of the period of significance, but staff feels that it was there a long period of time, and it also it was distinctive, right? It wasn't something that you saw everywhere. And so we felt that it was appropriate to suggest a condition that they provide some documentation images so that we could capture images of that original material, even though it wouldn't. Giving what we have proposal for the awning that's already been approved, we wouldn't want a mixed period of interpretations, you know, in that case. So it would be appropriate to remove that for that reason as well. But we wanted to have those 1965 alterations captured so that we could see what those materials look like. And then the transom, the replacement material shall be of the same type, quality, design, size, finish, proportions, light configuration, the original materials of the windows. When you look at that 1950 image, let me back up a little bit. Sorry, I don't want to give you a whiplash, but you know what we see there, to my eyes, that's typical of what you see with the prismatic kind of Luxfer brand lights that you would see, where you had a whole lot of very small ones, and they had a practical purpose to bring light all the way to the back of the building. You can kind of see from the shadow lines, you know, probably had operable kind of, each one of those three bays kind of had an operable ventilation panel of some sort. It's hard to say what's, you know, the very outside perimeter. It's hard to say from that image whether that would have been wooden or metal. You would have seen both. You could have seen either one. In between them, it was almost assuredly a metal holding all of them together. But we had a whole lot of lights, and you know, and a lot going on there at that time. Okay. And so what we do see with that is in terms of the we putting those transom windows in, the general overall proportions would be returned by this proposal. The light configuration as in each pane, you know, I tend to spell light as in, if I'm talking about a pane, I spell LITE, but it's interchangeable. A lot of people will say LIGHT. Sorry to nerd out, but it's a thing. So I see some people differentiate that way, so you know if they're talking about like light waves versus a piece of glass. But you know, in this sort of they're talking about lights, they're talking about the size of the piece of glass, which would be changed, but we have some reasons why. Because it says the replacement window shall be to the greatest extent practicable, feasible, match design, size, proportions, configuration, reflective qualities, profile of the original window. One thing about the Luxfer lights, if they were to replicate that sort of assembly, that was an assembly that required a fair amount of handwork because, you know, each of those lights had to be installed and then fit into there. Also, you don't see manufacturers manufacturing that. So you would have a vintage material and a vintage configuration in a way that a lot of window people these days wouldn't know where to begin with that. So it would be a generally expensive proposal to bring back that, even though a great exact replica would, in my opinion, be the most appropriate treatment for this. And so for those reasons, we feel that this proposal is bringing back a lot of those elements that were lost with it from both from the outside we look at, but also the inside in terms of the interior character. But and so that's why we're saying that this is a recommendation, although there are some changes in there. And then, you know, for this, we went over that. New window openings in the principal elevations, enlargement, reduction of original historic window openings, and infill of original historic window openings are not permitted. And so what this is doing is the opposite of that. It's reversing an inappropriate infill and actually returning the general openings to that facade that were lost in 1965. And then also original E says original openings that have been covered or blocked should be reopened when feasible. And this would be one where they're pursuing that option. And then windows historically used on upper levels shall not be installed at storefront level. And storefront, you know, large pane windows shall be installed at upper levels. You know, and we feel they're appropriate to the type of what they are. And then commercial window type should not be substituted with residential window types. And we don't see anything that resembles a residential window in this. And then interior grills between layers of insulating glass or stenciled mullions in lieu of true divided lights or permanently attached exterior mullions are not permitted. So for instance, if someone said, you know, these Luxfer panes were a whole lot of small ones, I would want to, you know, have an etched thing that gave you that grid. This would be something they would say that would be an inappropriate thing to do. And so this is a change, but, you know, it's not proposing any of those things. So it feels consistent with that. And then we have the security shutter, you know, the materials of that in there. They must be compatible with the historic character of the building's period and style in the surrounding historic district. And they must be metal or another traditional material available during the period of significance. And this is a pretty simple, and it's made of metal. And so we feel that's met. And then the design, we have a lot of criteria there. It must minimize the overall visual impact of the security feature on the character defining features of the historic storefront. So we're looking at, is it retractable and movable? Does it not inhibit access to storefront alcoves during the operating hours? Is it designed so that no proportion of the security fence gate is site obscuring? Is it attached to the historic storefront without obscuring or otherwise unreasonably detracting from the character defining features? Is it compatible with the building's period and style and surrounding historic district? And it's not being used to cover storefront display windows, so you don't have anything but the alcove covered. And then what is the percentage of open area? And this one, we feel it meets all of those. And then we didn't receive any public comments on this property. And we do recommend the historic landmark approve the proposal, but we do ask that documentation condition that the applicant shall provide images of the transom area prior to removal to City of Salem staff in order to document the appearance of those elements that were installed in 1965 renovation. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you. Do any commissioners have questions? No. I had just a quick question. It's interesting, this case is kind of interesting because we're dealing with a period of significance that ends in 1950. With alterations that happened in the 60s, but now they're restored, right? Or happened 60 years ago. It comes, I guess, to the heart of we have a historic district downtown where a lot of things have happened. I don't know who initially put that nomination together or when exactly it was listed, but it does kind of speak to do we ever update that historic district? Do we ever extend that period of significance or identify even multiple periods of significance within there as we've had these buildings change over time? Are we essentially discriminating against, new or old things by trying to, change it back to the original? So not a question you have to answer, but just more of a thought, I guess, for the commission and for staff. Who did that nomination? Do we know? Is that city sponsored? Or?
Yep.
It was. Okay.
CLG.
It was, oh, really? It's CLG. When was it done? 70s? 80s?
No.
Later?
It was early 2000s.
Was it really? Oh, it was more recent than I thought. Yeah. I just
No, it's before
I
they
think it might have just created. But there are things that I'm like, I worked on that, I bet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, thank you for the staff report. The applicant here at all? Right, testimony?
Yes.
Come on up. Please provide your name and address, your business address if you're representing the applicant.
My name is Travis Noble. Address is 2696 or P.O. Box 2696, Salem, Oregon, 97308. I just want to stand up and say thank you to Jake and the team and the staff report. It's been awesome. This is my first project, and I'm just excited to revitalize, to rehabilitate this building. It's been vacant for a number of years. So we're gung ho. We're excited to put some retail in, get some life into this building, and see it come to life. So if you have any questions, again, I'm not an architect, not a pro at this, but I'm willing and able to answer as many questions as I can. So thank you.
All right, thank you. Are there any questions?
I just want to say thank you for putting the sign back on the building. It's like, it was covered over or taken off, and it does so much to restore the historic appearance of the building, just to put its name back on.
Yeah, 100%.
Any other questions? All right.
Was there, when you were looking at the design of the transom, was there any thought to maybe use like a textured or patterned glass, like a big sheet of it to simulate some of that for prismatic?
Yeah.
I mean, you can't. Maybe I need to go into business to like do prismatic. I don't know. Probably not. Anyways, just.
Yeah, I know we floated out a few different concepts. That photo that we submitted was the original photo that I really wanted us to go back to. And just from the contractor's perspective and pretty much what Jake kind of talked about, the feasibility and the cost wise, I would love to be in a position to have an unlimited budget, and I just don't. And so we kind of had to scale back quite a bit of stuff. They pretty much just kind of laughed at me at the request of doing something like that. They just knew in their professional, experience that it's not doable.
Yeah, I'm just thinking if there was, even if it's still a big sheet of glass that had some texture that gives some likeness to that, but just thanks.
Yeah, absolutely.
I have a question. So staff is recommending to the commission that you provide images And is that something that you're open to providing us?
Yeah, of
doing
course.
That documentation?
Yeah, easy enough. It's
Wanted-
still there.
Wanted to check.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Are any other questions? All right, hey, thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah.
Is there anybody from the neighborhood association? I don't think so. Nobody's on the sign up sheet, right? Well. Nobody else is gonna give testimony, the applicant doesn't need to remove something. Are there any additional questions of staff? Seeing none, hearing none. All right, to close the public hearing, no additional testimony will be accepted at this time without formally reopening the hearing. We'll now call for a motion.
I move that the commission approve the proposal as submitted by the applicant and with the condition one proposed by staff of providing the images of the transit area prior to its removal.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, Commissioner Strawn seconds. Commissioner Newman, to your motion.
I think it's been a great project and I just wondered if there might be remnants of the old transom up there, because I've actually seen that happen. Some of these Main Street type buildings, the general practice is just to cover over things. So you'll have all kinds of different layers of architectural skin disease, but then underneath it are, you know, sometimes like an old storefront or a remnant or a piece of the transom or whatever, so just kind of watch at the demolition stage and see if there are any remnants up there.
And yeah, it's kind of like when you peel back the shag carpet and there's the beautiful wood flooring underneath. But maybe part of the photo documentation is photographing its removal too. Just to, sometimes removing it kind of shows how it was installed and kind of gives you better angles and everything on its uniqueness. So that might be kind of interesting to document that as well.
Other discussion? Comments? Let's start in the comment that I think this is a great project. I've watched this building downtown for a number of years, and it's good to see something happening with it and something really positive happening with it. So I'll be looking forward to seeing it without that giant awning. It's gonna look, it's gonna make that whole block look really different in a really good way. So yeah, I'm excited by it. So. All right, any other discussion? Okay, so we have a motion to approve the proposal with the conditions to satisfy the specific standards, which is that the applicant shall provide images of the transom area prior to its removal to City of Salem staff to document the appearance of those elements that were installed in the 1960s. And we have a second for that, so I will call for the vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. Motion passes.
Who's this candle with cigarette? Wait, I don't even know what's going on. Never mind.
If you didn't want photos, I love taking photos of all that. I can just floodgate with everything that I photo stuff.
A lot of selfies too, like.
Yeah. I love it, but
We're just excited, we want to see.
yeah, thank you guys. Take care.
Thank you.
Architectural skin disease.
And-
Wow,
Great.
someone should coin that term.
I think it's been quite good.
So then modernizations.
Welcome back, Commissioner Weather.
Yes, thank you, yeah.
Yes. So we don't have any special orders of business. Sorry, we do. Special orders of business. Right, start
Right here. So as I let you all know in the email, we had very limited engagement in the photo contest this year. It's something that in my other life, I do a lot of community engagement stuff. The engagement has been down, so I'm not too surprised, but we had 4 submissions by 2 different photographers. So one person entered a photo in every single category, and then one person just entered one photo. So I have the 4 photos that we have here today. If you want to make, I don't know what you all would like to do. The only like choices, I guess, are to award photos or not in the category. And then in the one category that has competition, decide whether or not you want to. You can pick one if you'd like. I did not put these in a particular order, which I probably should have, but this is the only one we have for exterior. I believe this will technically be, yeah, this is exterior. So the photo of Eaton Hall on Willamette campus, submitted by one of our photographers. Why is this not going to the next one? That's rude. Okay, I'll figure it out. I opened all of them. All right, oops, that's not what I want. Sorry. What is happening here? Go to. Sorry. I thought that I had these all open. I'll do the next one. So, oh, it's not gonna share. Hold on, sorry.
Yeah.
That's not what I wanted to show you. Why did it show you this one? Okay. That's I know those. All right. This is the so this is the historic interior, the only one that we got. This is at the Thomas K. Woolen Mill. Interior of that. And then the 2 features, we have 2 different entries in the feature, which one is the statue at Willamette College of Law, depicting a law student, theoretically, hard at work. And then the other, so all 3 of those were by the same photographer. And then this final photo is of a historic, I assume, wall. I believe that this is off of River Road, where that it turns from Owens into River. And that's one of our features. So those are all the submissions that we got this year. So a little disappointing in terms of volume, but still good to have some engagement with that. And yeah,
That's what the categories are.
oh yes, there's historic exterior, historic interior, and then historic landscape or feature. Landscape, streetscape, or feature.
I know in the past, we've discussed some options on awarding awarding a photo, or if we get a submission, especially if it's like one photo and it doesn't quite
Yeah.
or come up to the standard we would expect, we don't have to award for that category. I think also in the past we've done awarded 2 photos in one category. So just laying out some options that if you see a photo and you're like, that doesn't really match our category or what we're going for, we don't have to award it just because it's the only one.
Yeah, it's completely up to you. You could award all of them winners. You could say none of them are. You can decide. We made up the award, so you get to do what you want with them. There are no criteria. Well, there are, but they're not legal criteria. We're not bound to them. If we get sued, I don't think that we'll hold that. But I'm not a lawyer, and I don't know that. But so yeah, if you would like me to bring up any of the specific images, I can do that.
So I guess we need to actually take a vote though on, or, yeah.
Maybe go,
Is there any proposals? I'll entertain proposals.
maybe go through each category, just bring up each submission in each category. Since
And
it's just one.
Yep.
I guess the vote would be, do we award this photo or not?
So this is the only entry in exterior.
And there's nothing about. You can't win, like, there's nothing that says you can't win all the awards.
That is correct. The rules where you can only submit one photo per category. So they only submitted one photo per category. In the past, we have had people who have submitted multiple photos, and I only consider the first photo that they submitted.
Is there general, like, for this external facade, I guess, categories or kind of general agreement that we want to award? So first of all, do we want to award in this category?
I think
Yeah,
it's sick.
okay. And then we want to award it to this photo, our only submission? This category,
Yes.
okay,
I don't
does
see any
that
issue.
suffice for approval?
I,
Still have to, like,
Or do we have to physically vote on each one? Or
Um,
I think at the end you could say.
yeah,
what they all are, okay,
for the minutes and my purposes, I'd love it if you did it all at once.
we'll do all.
Great,
Yeah, fill each other out, so, okay,
great.
so what about the internal?
So the interior is just this singular photo by the same photographer of the Thomas K. Woolen Mill.
It matches category. That is.
General agreement, okay.
I think this is a lot more interesting than that exterior photo.
I love
Personally,
these.
I don't feel like we award anything. We didn't have a competition.
We did have one, you can't win if you don't play.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
I mean,
if anything, it's just an acknowledgement of thank you for. Yeah,
Right,
participation
Yeah.
award,
I agree.
but it is.
It costs us nothing, right, to give acknowledgement.
I mean,
There's a prize.
well,
Right?
they're donated.
What are the fabulous prizes?
For this one, they get a ticket to Thomas K. Woolen Mills.
Again.
Again, that's right.
They were undetermined, just kidding.
Yes, the
Okay,
prize is donated by one of our commissioners, so
okay.
it's
It only costs.
It only costs Commissioner Weathers your generosity.
yeah.
It's my
And
birthday.
then we provide,
Give them to
Right?
universities.
we provide a certificate that probably costs like 25 cents.
In
I'll
the,
match that.
in the, for the historic interiors one, in the like description of it. Is it just take a picture of an interior, or is it supposed to show like, I guess I'm asking, like, what's the requirement, like, does it need to be architecture, or does it,
There's no specific requirement for that. Interiors have been like architectural elements from the interiors of historic buildings, like the windows in the atrium of the Civic Center have been a photograph in the past where that's very much about the architecture. But then we've also got submissions of like historic mailboxes that have been inside some of the buildings. And I wouldn't, yeah. Yeah, so there's no specific, like it has to be about the historic use or the historic architecture, just is of a historic place, the interior of it, so.
To have more categories, but we were finding just less involvement, so we found that if we just kept it very general, then we typically would get more submissions. This is pretty low.
Yeah. Would you like to move on to the final category?
Yes.
Okay, so this is streetscapes, landscapes, features, and this is that same photographer and their final photo. And let me know when you would like me to switch it to the other one.
Go ahead.
Oh, and I wasn't reading the titles, but they are titled. This is If Rocks Could Talk. If Rocks Could Talk.
Yeah. Yeah. So the question is, do we want to award in this category? That's the first question.
Yeah, should.
This was the only one that has competition.
Yeah.
And this one is just titled Willamette College of Law.
And personally, I actually like this photo. I think it's well composed. Is it a feature of the building site? Yeah, I mean, you could stretch it. I don't know when that building was built. statue installed, but it looks seventies.
It has a plaque. It
Well,
likes
it's-
it.
We really define historic anyways, right?
You don't.
Instructions are vague, the publicity is.
Yeah.
You put it on the internet.
Instructions.
I'm looking at the loafers and the wide leg pants, and wide lapels and the haircut,
The Lego man here.
plus the brutal design of the stairs.
The paper.
And the, yes,
The analog. Data.
so do we want to award the category? How do people feel about the photos? It's sort of the rocks at the top.
Well, the rock one, see, we've got a category that's landscape or features.
Yes,
Well,
Landscape,
this is
streetscape.
Landscape, the other one is a feature. I mean, it's almost like there are two different aspects of this category.
So I mean, it depends on how you define it. In archaeology, this would be a feature. Yeah.
Yes, it would be a very nice.
so
So,
there's still.
I'm not wild about any of them. He's wild about this category.
I appreciate the stopping and paying attention to something that's getting over, like, eaten by nature. I just feel like as far as photography goes, it looks like a photo that I would take and I would.
Looks like a quick snapshot.
Yeah. So. So do we wanna just do a vote? We can, if people want to vote, we can vote.
Let's do this. We'll do one vote for them all. So we want to do the external, the interior. I think it sounds like we're kind of about the only category that has competition. My vote would be that we award the statue, just because we do have a submission there. It's a feature. And acknowledging that, something that people may have not even seen in Salem unless you're down that way. So I think that's kind of a nice nod. So that's kind of where my mind is going.
I would say if any of them deserves an award, it would be that interior picture. I think it was interesting. Well composed, and you know, we could just give one award for that one picture. I mean, it's the same photographer as the other one, so. We could just give one award for.
I mean, even if we didn't know who the photographers were, say it was just, you know. We didn't know, I would honestly give an award for each category. I feel like those photos are appropriate for the categories, and. I mean, in the past, we've seen submissions where we've only had one submission per category and it really didn't really match the category and we didn't award it. You know, it was a great photo, but it really didn't capture the category at all. But I feel like these ones do, and they are decent, you know, I think they're great photos. I think the public would enjoy seeing them as well.
Yeah, I agree. I think in the future, maybe we shouldn't know. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, typically, when we have a decent number of submissions, I do not inform you who the photographer is. And we have had people in the past win multiple awards because they just had good photos and multiple
So I'll throw out there to the commission before we do a formal vote that we awarded each category. The Eaton Hall, the Thomas K. Mill, and the William University College of Law.
Second that vote.
Yeah, second proposal or so. Should we take a formal vote for the record? Okay, so I'll
Raise your hands if you.
I will, I can move it, sure. I will move that we award the exterior photo Eaton Hall, the interior photo Thomas K. Mill, and the feature Willamette University College of Law. For the winners.
Second that.
Second by Commissioner Curtiman, sorry, Curtiman. Okay, all right. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. Okay. Motion passes.
Okay.
Thank you, Zach,
That was an intense debate.
all of your work.
Okay, move on to information reports.
Does there need to be a shared selection on this other? No.
It does not need to be.
Okay, Kurt, Kurt's probably like.
Is there a staff presentation?
No, it's just work plan update, so if anyone has done any work planning thing. Finished for preservation month, you did a talk,
Yep.
Kristen did a tour that I did not go to, I don't know,
We have all sorts of archaeology things to talk about.
so.
Really quick, how did the tour go? You know, that Chris.
It was a fair amount of people were there. It's, I'd say pushing 20 people.
Well,
I think the talk, I think about maybe 15, 20 people, something, I didn't count, but. Yeah, it was fun to do.
Yeah.
Kristen was there actually.
Yeah. Yay.
Can you remind us of our work plan assignments? I don't recall off the top of my head.
Well, while you're looking that up, Zach, our public archaeology day, I thought went really, really well. It was smaller in the sense of, we didn't have tables and other booths and other folks, like sometimes the tribe will have a booth and a table. So it wasn't quite set up like that this year, so it was pretty small, focused location. But I feel like we had more involvement because of its location too. It was also alumni weekend and it was on the Willamette campus, so we had a ton of alumni come by. And Kimberly, I don't know if you had any interest, but for anybody emailing you, but we did have a sign that said,
Yes, I've had a few people.
that's great. We had a sign that said, have any old photos of Willamette University, like. Not really, and this was all alumni, so there was folks there who were there for their 60th reunion or 65th reunion, and folks who were, their 10-year reunion, so all levels. So it was really neat to see and really fun, and a lot of interest, a lot of kids too, which I was surprised. So I thought it was a great success.
And we also did a lecture, or I don't know what to call it, presentation in Ford. So that was something the alumni had to sign up for. It was interesting. And we had about 40 people attend that. And so Brees from the tribes, he came, and also Scott Pike and we just talked about the project that we've been working on for since 2020, and the MPD. He started helping with that. It's the National Register Foundation, and also about the future work that we're going to be doing, hopefully in the next year or two. So that part, I think it went really well.
And then Kimberly got the professor that.
Yeah, my queries.
Previously, yeah, there's the professor that had worked and excavated on the site previously. It's kind of been not MIA, but just not as involved. He came out and was able to do some hand waving and explanation of some notes. And so that was invaluable. I think one of my favorite things I saw though is a student who knew enough Spanish to speak to some of the families that came by that were
Not great.
that were not as comfortable in English, but were definitely opened up to them when they spoke Spanish to them. So and he definitely is not Spanish speaking. Like English is his first language, and Spanish is like an extracurricular activity. Which I had to look at. So.
That's great. I actually went out to the site today and gave me a tour of things. It was very, very neat to see happening. And the artifacts that have been collected, soil and the science behind it too. I did take pictures of Kimberly being interviewed by KGW.
Nice, yeah, it was on
I
the
can,
news, so.
I can send those to people.
Oh my God.
You did
I love
10
Yeah.
Put it in our newsletter.
We definitely.
And she was in the paper, both in the Salem Report and the Statesman Journal yesterday.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's a really, really great project.
Yeah, I'm optimistic. I'm ever an optimist that we're actually gonna find a foundation the way we did the Jason Lee. So Kara, you were on city council in 2020.
Yeah.
And you came out for our, what was that? Was a virtual public archaeology day we had.
I did, I walked down there
Surreal.
with a mask on. and-
Yeah, it was
Yep.
very surreal, but we couldn't have people on because it's COVID times, but we were still out there excavating and you were great. I remember we interviewed you.
Yes, you did.
I think we found the foundation wall by then.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so I'm ever an optimist. I'm very spoiled in archaeology. You just dig and you find stuff. It's great.
We're fantastic at finding sprinkler pipes. Pretty good at it.
Yes, that's the.
Yeah, so
Great.
also I submitted the application to the governor's office to
Oh, yeah,
the
fine.
proclamation that for October to be archaeology month in the state of Oregon. So I should hear back by the end of August on it.
We always remember in October.
Yeah, I usually remember like the last week of September. But it's good because before they would approve it within a week or two, but now they say you have to give them a split by so on it.
All right. Zach, did you find her assignment?
Yes, photo contest, we've already done, that's good, we did the awards, public education, Andy is doing that for us, he's the commissioner, so you can't report on it. Designation of Inglewood, I don't know if there's been any progress on it.
We're in process and uploading documents to our little shared drive and probably will have more to report. Hope to put something on the agenda in the fall.
And then the Jerry Frank House, there's been any. I have you.
I don't know.
Yeah.
That's Jay.
Yeah, with that one, the property owner. We were working on getting a meeting set up, but then kind of. I haven't heard from the property owner in a while.
And then the Scan Heritage Neighborhood, that would be Kirsten, but she's not here.
But did you guys do anything this month?
Oh,
Do we have a?
we haven't done a follow-up since the last meeting. We did one shortly before the last one. We're planning on doing another one, but haven't set it yet.
Just do it every July.
We want to do
Yay.
one.
So that's more to come.
More to come.
Great.
I hear Marcel's been doing some work on
I'm out there
getting
photographing,
things going.
Yay,
talking to people.
love it.
And then last I have public archaeology and you just talked about, so that's all I have.
Okay, all right, and then we have the newsletter.
Yeah. I don't know why I came up here because there's no camera. Yeah, so newsletter would traditionally be subjects from our historic photo contest. That's very limited. So I'm hearing that we're gonna do an archaeology one apparently, because we're gonna put things about Kim doing archaeology. So we'll include photos of that. Maybe we can just, I assume that we already have a bunch of stuff written from our past things. We could just talk about all the public archaeology we've done for the last. Okay, it theoretically should go out next week. It's not going to. So it'll go out when I get back from vacation.
Okay.
So that'll be late July, early August.
And if you talked about your baby.
I will be gone from July 1st to July 27th. I'm going to the homeland. My parents were born outside of America, and we're going to go visit the island that they were born on. And so I will be there for 3 full weeks.
Very
A little bit of time for travel and whatnot. So I will not be available. Jennifer is going to cover the July meeting if we have one. I don't believe that there are currently any cases on the docket for that, but you all do what you do. So yeah. I think that is all I have, unless anyone is objecting to the archaeology focused newsletter. I mean, it is early for archaeology awareness, but. It's fine.
The fall, so you should out.
October.
Well, that would be perfect
Yeah.
if it's archaeology.
Yeah, but.
This is the summer
Want
one.
it, oh, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I apologize.
It's a late summer one, but it's a summer one.
Just delayed.
It'll be preparing.
Yeah, I was gonna say it can advertise for, rather than, hey, now is the time.
Yeah.
We could put in the newsletter anticipation of October archaeology.
Right.
Just be coming soon.
Yeah,
Exactly.
come soon, archaeology months, what does that mean? Soon.
That's all I have.
Okay. All right, thank you. Don't think we have any public here.
Everyone left.
Public comment. Historic preservation officers report.
Yeah, I don't really have anything other than if you want me to talk more about archaeology. No, I appreciate Jake and Marcel sitting the board down. I don't know, Lisa, do you want to talk about us moving? Did we really talk about that already?
I don't know, I wasn't here last month. Yeah, our offices have moved. We got a city hall, there's still a few folks there for a couple weeks, but we have moved to 440 Church Street Southeast, which is owned by Safe. We are renting 2 of the floors, the 4th and 5th floor. Not the big blue Safe building, it's the brown one across the street, the last exciting one. And so anything and everything to do with permitting is on the 5th floor, and then the 4th floor of the mayor, city manager, finance, for their internal staff there. Release mostly at her archaeology lab out at city staff have scattered to many buildings, but that is where we are at for 18 to 24 months.
Okay.
While city hall inside the director of the council. Council's meeting in Louds Auditorium at the library, yeah. But we're using this room for HLC, hearings officer and planning commission. Louds is harder to look and big and just on the stage and it's.
You look up at you.
People look up at, yeah, it's very weird, but it does have the camera capabilities, CC Media, which is why council chose that location, so. We just have our one little camera, no matter where we go, so. This was better. So pretty soon you'll see that City Hall will be, completely blocked off.
Well, last time I was on this property was when I was hoping for the archaeology to build this building.
Isn't that great?
Yeah.
2018.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. And you were.
I helped shovel the first.
Yes, yeah.
Dirt.
Yes.
About right there.
Yeah.
I think the shovel's here somewhere. I signed it.
Uh-huh,
I think that's when we met, Kimberly.
it was. I don't know. 2018. 2018. Wow.
Yeah, when I had one kid.
That's a long time.
Red-eyed bushy tailed.
All right, is any comments for the good of the order, commissioners? All right, we're adjourned.